Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on December 21st, 2022 at approximately 4:20 p.m. PST. I like coming on just a couple of minutes early just to make certain that, I'm on top of the ball right off the bat, which is seldom the case in all fairness. The reality is I've been looking at the way the world's been going, and like I said yesterday, even my world ended up turning upside down. But with that in mind, I figure we watch the world, we watch what's going on, and how much is being said that is absolutely negative. Okay, there is so much fear being propagated, and who's responsible for it. The churches talk about how God is vindictive, how he is vengeful, but you should love him anyway. The corporations tell you buy this product because it'll make you feel better. Okay, it'll cost you an arm and leg, but hey, it'll make you feel better. You're told right from the get-go, fear everything. Okay, when you watch the social media, I no longer look at the major media corps and go, there's the problem. That's no longer the problem. I used to believe, much like you did, I used to believe it was. Okay, but before I go any further, two major factors. One is I returned to this world, to this time, for one primary purpose, and that is to remind virtually everyone in existence that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, the catch is, I cannot do it on my own. No individual can. Now, no matter who I talk to, most people believe that we have free will. Okay, some are a little bit twisted on as far as that goes, at least in my opinion, and I forgot to set something up here. So bear with me for just half a second. Wrong one. Okay. Let us refresh and see. Okay. Everybody, virtually everybody comes along with this idea that it's somebody else's responsibility. Well, here's the thing. Okay. I did notice, there we go. And we have people coming through the door here. I just can't read it at this distance. Whoop, and I don't need the volume here, so let's get that terminated right away. Okay, and we shut that off. Okay. Now, let's start at the obvious issue. Okay, Chad, I know you've got the gold because you were I've already spoken to you once. You've got the gold. Joe, welcome aboard. Glad you made it. And you've come in on silver. Now, the neat part about all of this, we're all taught everything and we're shown the fear base. So many people take the use of social media and say, here is the negative stuff. Here's photos and that these particular people don't want you to see. Eternity, welcome aboard. And you've come in with the bronze. People put these pictures up and go, here's pictures of athletes and superstars that had major wardrobe failures. These are pictures they don't want you to see. So I'm going to post them up here for you. Now, I don't know about you, but karmic law is pretty cut and dried. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. If you had the option and somebody took a compromising picture of you, would you want somebody else? Would you desire somebody else to post it all over the paper or the picture, all over social media, all over whatever venue possible? How about this? We just paint a pie and we just get a big billboard and put said compromising picture up on a billboard for you. I'm sure this is not going to go over well, but what we are neglecting, okay, and what happens every single year, it's been happening literally for hundreds of years, and that is the positive energy that is available out there. We are overlooking on the whole, society is putting it aside. And yet, the world over, people are doing their best to treat each other a little bit more effectively, a little bit more congenially than the rest of the time. Now, why you don't do it the rest of the time, I don't know. Okay, I do know I've become extremely reclusive because of the fact that I can feel what's happening. Okay, and it's very important that we take a look at what is going on. Now, a couple of things that I've already managed to do. Okay, I mentioned I really strongly suggest that you get a list together of 12 things that you personally desire to accomplish before the end of 2023. Now, I've already got mine done. Okay, I've got my 12 listed. And now it's just a question of making certain I stay on board with it. Now, you could essentially take this, go, okay, here's all 12 of the items I've got. These 12 things go on my dream board, essentially are my dream board. Okay, meaning take a look at those 12 items that I've got on my list. Those are the primary ones I'm aiming at. Now, there will be setbacks. And I will tell you, being all of a sudden facing a situation where I no longer, after 50 years, and I no longer have a job. Okay. Now, from my standpoint, that was pretty cut and dried. Okay. I turned around, and I should check. Oh, I can't get into it right now, but I do have to make that note. Because I forgot to check one file, and if that's the case, I've got to get things moving with it. Now, remember I told you I was going to be, one of my goals was to get my left hand working again. Well, the only way that's going to have to do, that's going to work, is if I actually put the effort into it. Same as on your end. Okay, because the reality of it is, you have the option. You've got goals, you've got things you're not content with. You have the option of either capitalizing on the positive energy that is available. I don't want to talk to an unknown caller. Thank you very much. See, the reality is, nice thing about phones, they can ring and I can look at them and go, no, unknown caller, I've got no use for it right now. And won't have any use for it for an hour or so. Well, actually, for a couple hours. But you have a choice, okay? Now, when my job was terminated on Friday, I could have gone the route of, oh, where's my life going to go? You can do the same thing. Okay, how am I going to get by? Or I could go, okay, this is an opportunity to reclaim power over my life and make it happen. Now, there's a lot of really positive things going on. Okay, there's a lot more pushing towards the idea of helping your neighbor, helping your friend, helping your friends, helping strangers with regards to this idea of let's donate to the food bank. Let's take care of the fuzzy people in the SPCA. What do we got? Dogface, welcome aboard. And you can, oops, missed one here. No, we caught it. Where do we go? Okay, what do we got? We have Chad with the gold. We've got Joe with the silver. We've got Eternity with the bronze, and Dogface. You have managed to get in with honorable mention. Angels of Life, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now we can look at the fact that there is so much hurt, so much pain in the world. Paul, glad you made it. We can look at all the pain going on in the world. We can look at everything going sour. And we can say, hey, this is just a terrible world we're living in. I will tell you, if we do not start as a society focusing on the positive side of things and the way we can help each other, we are going to have some serious, serious trouble. Okay. So I look at it going this way. Now, I personally do not give to registered charities, except the food bank and the SPCA, again, with food. That way, the people that really require it are getting actual food, not money that can be spent in the wrong fashion. Part of that is my problem. Okay. I ended up earlier this year with for me, a staggering amount of money all in one shot. Okay. And by doing that, I was sitting there going, that's not bad, but I never learned a thing, it would appear, because I wiped the entire income out. Boy, we do have to watch that. Found out a neat little drawback, a neat little side effect to dropping a lot of weight. This ring, right? This ring used to fit solidly, used to be really, really snug. But I'll tell you, you lose 50 pounds, and I didn't lose it. I know where it went. Okay, I could go into more detail on that, but I don't see the point. Okay, but what happened the other day is the ring lit. I moved my hand too fast, and the ring literally come off. Now this ring, it's in one sense not really that special. If you take a look at it, it's damaged, but it also came from my second oldest brother. Okay, when he passed away, this ring was his. Okay, and it ended up in my possession. So, does it matter? And does it, is it important to me? The answer is definitively yes. Okay, but we can look at where the world is and go, the world is doomed. We're going to die. Well, I will give you this. We are going to die. You can be absolutely dead certain of that. The question is not, are you going to die? The question is, how are you going to live? Now, again, I was talking to people, I think it was yesterday. Nope, must have been Friday. What was yesterday? Anyway, I was talking to people just the other day, anyway, on here about doing excerpts from the books I'm writing. And I got a pretty quick response, so I am starting to post them. Probably only once a week as far as those go. But we'll see how things go. Okay. But take a look at it. If you know people around you, and I will tell you them, well, even if you don't know people around you, you want to spread positive energy? Absolutely. Turn around and smile at whoever you see. Okay. It's easier than frowning. Myself, I tend to look the way I am. That's just me. Okay. But like I've always held, I'm not necessarily the most upbeat individual you run into. But I do have a request for all of you. Okay. As many of you know, I work quite readily with the chat room. Now, the reality is I've only got one going because unlike Dave Scott with Spaced Out Radio, I do not handle 5 and 6 different chat rooms at a time. 5 and 6 conversations, absolutely. But what I would like to see come up in the chat room here, especially today, is if anybody out there has seen something, something of a really positive nature, the way somebody's was treated, the way that a waitress, or a waitress or an EMT or just a general patron somewhere has treated people. Sadly there, Joe, I see both females and males doing the same thing where it comes to posting absolutely bizarre things. And I like the ones that are absolutely negative. I go, okay, that's negative. I'm not having anything to do with it. But I am going to ask you guys, okay, that if you know of an event or of somebody that you've seen that really went and helped somebody else. Okay, don't care what it was. I mean, quite frankly, maybe it was just somebody walking along and you spotted a cat on the ground. They picked the cat up and got it out of the way. This sort of thing is still a positive nature. Okay. Now, I don't see a lot in the material world very much right now because, well, frankly, I don't leave the house. That could have a real negative impact on seeing things. What am I looking for here? Came looking just to see if I missed something important. Probably. Oh, well. Oh, I know what I was looking for. Yeah, right now in Cologne, and this might give you an idea why I'm not outside. We are at minus 21 Celsius, which really is about minus 10 Fahrenheit-ish. Okay, now I don't know about you, but that's awfully cotton picking cold. Okay, but what I would like to see is more and more posting of people helping each other. Let's take advantage of social media and of that platform, regardless of who owns it, regardless of who put it in motion. Let's take advantage of it and start spreading positive information. Okay, positive experiences instead of this idea of spreading negative. Now, the reality of it is, scientists, and I believe it was in Pennsylvania about 20 years ago, proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that positive energy will have a greatly beneficial impact on plant life. It makes it flourish. It makes it grow a lot better. And frankly, where it comes to crop yield, it helps as well. Okay. And with that in mind, if as a community, we can start reaching out to each other, even if it is just to smile and say good morning, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day is appropriate, even if that's all you're doing. Okay, or when you go in and you're talking to a person an employee, and you happen to know their name or they've got a name tag, put it to use. Okay. Yeah. I've never lived that far north. I have been up in that end of the world, but I've never lived. But I always do that in the summer because, like you, Dogface, I will have to talk to this one later. And again, my phone is not working right, as it's not giving me the option to answer. But bear with me while this thing runs its course. There we go. Just an annoyance. The problem with my phone is it doesn't necessarily shut down properly. And I think what I'm going to do so I don't get that again is we just turn the ringer down. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Glad you made it. Yeah, I was thinking of that, the idea of Australia, my problem is I don't like moving. I don't like going anywhere. So I'm in a comfortable position. And of course, with the turn of events here, for me, it really boils down to I stay inside and make sure I keep my heat on, that sort of thing. And I'm not bad. Yeah, I get to see snow as soon as it hits. Mind you, in all fairness, when we're talking about Kelowna, okay, 30 years and 40 years ago when I got here, okay, we used to have 40 below and 3 to 4 feet of snow for 3 weeks at a run. Okay, now a cold period is 20 below. Okay. I do appreciate that there, Dogface. And one day when things settle down a little, and I've got a little bit more money under my belt, one day I will start traveling to meet some of the people I've come to know here. And again, Vegas itself, depending on what happens, of course, my income just got shattered, so I'm working on a rebuild here. But what I really, really, really would like to see happen is people taking the time to, instead of posting all the negative things, we start working to help each other. Now, if you go up to the top of up to the top of the chat room, you'll find the link. You'll find the link to a few places. Okay, to a direct link to Spaced Out Radio, to the YouTube channel for Spaced Out Radio. Why don't I do it on this one where I can actually read it? What do you think? Spaced Out Radio, the Quantum Show with Nathan. You know, Dave Scott Spaced Out Radio, Nathan's Quantum Show. Then we have Shadow and Sun, and the Chad Smith podcast. Now, I know there was a fifth one I was putting on, only I don't recall whose it was. And I will start adding it, but I've got a chart now where when I know somebody's YouTube channel, at the beginning of the show is what I found is if I post them, okay, to start with, of the people that are here regularly, that is. Okay, when I look at that, I really take a look and say, hey, you know, you could look at it and go, oh, we're dealing with competition. Well, the reality is there are now over 8 billion people on this planet. Okay. And I mean, let's face it, my subscription level right now is, where are we? Just have to, oh, of course it's going to do that. Let's try that. Nope. I just have to, oh, dashboard, that's why. Okay. Current time right now, I am looking at 339. Now, the only reason I'm looking at subscription numbers, in all fairness, is because I know that the subscriptions does not tell anything about how many people see the posts. Many of you, especially if you've got a chat room, if you're a podcast of your own, many of you already know, and many of you that don't have the room already know that lots of people take a look at the video and never subscribe. Okay, the important factor for me is simple. I returned to this world for one primary reason, and that is to remind people that living together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody, but it is going to require the effort of virtually everybody as well. You know, now we are at a point in time at this point. Whoa, let's take a look at that. Oh, that's the easy part, Joe. Being empathic, I was dealing with so much negativity and so many people that were just blatantly going out of their way to hurt each other, not to mention the amount of bullying I went through as a kid. I just said, no, I will leave the house when I have to work. Okay. And that's it. So I leave the house to work, or if I've got to go to the grocery store. And of course, in all fairness, there was one restaurant that I would go to, and I spent way too much money there, even in my eyes. Okay, I don't like cooking, so I find one restaurant I'm content with, go to that restaurant, go to the same seat. You know, I basically end up with my own private booth. So I just turned around and said, I will leave the house if I have to. I've got very few friends, and don't take that the wrong way. I like you guys, don't get me wrong. But locally, there are 2 people that come to visit me. Yeah, Inner Voice Enterprise, I do appreciate that there, Dogface. You know, the reality is Inner Voice Enterprises is the name of my company. Okay, and I had to pick something in my eyes I require in order to do what I was aiming to do with the world at large. I required a company name. Okay, something beyond just my name. Now, I've had a lot of different discussions with people, and as it turns out, from a business standpoint, you want a company name. But I did agree with what Dave said. Okay, about the concept that, yeah, that's the company, but people know me. They know my face. Scary thought when you think about that. But if you look back at the old videos that I had, okay, and I've still got, I used to be, I used to be 50 pounds heavier, and my hair was not this short. It was all the way down past my elbows. Okay. But I came to the understanding that if I'm going to make things happen, I'm going to have to get out there, and this is the easiest way to get the message out. The sad reality of it is so many people take for granted what is available, and they go, I deserve more because I've got more money. Well, rest assured, money has never motivated me. I had somebody, they wanted to tell my life story. I had a company out of California that wanted to get me to tell my life story on video. And they sent me a contract, and what I read in the contract really said, we're going to make it up as we go anyway. We just want your name and face. So I told the guy, I said, I'm not signing the contract. Hey, Nathan, welcome aboard. Glad you can make it. I turned around and I told the guy, I said, look, I'm not doing it. I'm not signing the contract. The guy turns around and goes, but you don't understand the kind of money you're turning down. I looked at him, I said, I fully understand the money I'm turning down. What you don't get is how little I care. Now, the reality of it is, I have come to the understanding that it is absolutely imperative that you pay attention to your finances. Good afternoon, LA. Glad you could make it. The reality of it is, and here's a shout out to LA and Frank. Okay, if it were not for them, well, specifically if it were not for Frank, there is no way on the planet that I would, well, there may have been, but it would have been a gamble at best. Okay, that I would have saved, that we would have been able to save 40 years of writing. Okay. Now, from that standpoint, there are no words that can actually say thank you well enough. Because I'll tell you, 40 years is a long time, especially when I'm only 59. Okay, actually, when you think about it, be 45 years now, I think. Okay, but in any event, it is time we really take a look at things, and we really take a look at society and go, okay, do you have to like all of your neighbors? Absolutely not. Okay, but I will throw a wrench into things. Okay, there's this funny little book here. Okay, this thing's called an ephemeris, and yes, as you can tell, it's well used. But there's a misconception. Okay, many astrologers will tell you that your opposing sign, okay, that you cannot get along with them. Okay, and I'm going to have to point something out, apparently. Okay, if you think about it. Now, in my case, I'm a Taurus. Okay, meaning I was born in May, specifically May 13th of 63. That would mean that Scorpio, which is on the other side of the zodiac, I would never get along with. Well, here's the problem with that. If we have, what do we got here? Yeah, absolutely. Bring us with you there, dog face. The reality of it is this. If your opposing sign never actually, if you can never get along with it, you would be looking at literally one half of the world never getting along with the other half. Now, this is one of the major problems that we're looking at. Okay, because if that were the case, then we would have a very, very big problem. But I'm just going sideways here, and this is one of those things about positive energy. Okay, if you follow astrology at all, okay, when you have two planets that are at what's called a square to each other, liken it to the idea of the theoretical two sticks rubbing together to make a fire. Okay. They will have conflicts. There's no question there. But so does everybody else. But the thing you got to remember is that with that cross energy, okay, what you end up with is you may get a fire out of it, but what you do with that fire is the important thing. What you do with the passion you're feeling is the critical factor. Okay, that's just the real side of it. You notice that too, eh, Nathan? You know, just noticing Nathan from the Quantum Show. He goes, "That's not right. Since I am a Scorpio and we seem to get along." Yeah, we had a great time on the show. You know, the reality is that's where squares come in. The opposition. Picture, if you will, two people on opposite sides of an 8-foot table. Now, together, if you're working together, you can stack stuff on it. You can move a lot. If you guys are not getting along, what you're going to end up doing is turning that table on its side and dumping everything, and you're not going to make much headway. Okay, these are some of the major misconceptions. Okay, but we're taught to fear, even in the metaphysical field. Okay, you know, and there again, we've got all sorts of neat little situations that you're looking at. And I don't actually have my wheel handy. I'm going to have to remember to track it down because I don't have it handy here unless it's right there. Let's just see if it is. Nope, it's not. I've got a wheel around here somewhere where I can actually show you at some point. But here's the other misconception. Everybody is taught to fear Mercury retrograde. Okay, but what I found was this. Okay, if you're living your life based on astrology, you've got to remember something. Mercury retrograde only affects people, well, more to the point, primarily affects people that are born with their Mercury direct, and vice versa. If you're born with Mercury retrograde, when Mercury retrograde comes around, it is likely going to benefit you. Okay. Yeah, basically, Dogface, astrology is set up as a 360-degree wheel broken into 12 different equal houses. And I'll go into that on a different day because right now I don't have the wheel with me. Okay, but I do have one made. And frankly, since I don't know offhand where it gets along with and where it sits, you know, all in all, we are taught that you're supposed to. Here comes Mercury retrograde. We're in trouble. Here comes Saturn return. Fear it. Okay. Oh, here it comes up on. Here we come up on Sunday. Let's fear everything. Go to church and ask for forgiveness. Well, bad news. The guy sitting at the front of the temple or at the front of the church is not the one that has to do that. Okay, but that being said, a request for forgiveness is absolutely pointless if you're not going to actually make the effort to change things. You know, well, I will tell you, I used to be a little imbalanced with my drinking. When I was drinking heavily, when I first started, I mixed my own drinks at 80-20 in favor of the alcohol. This is not a balanced drink. Really not even healthy in all fairness. But we are taught every time something changed. I was told as you get older, your body will break down. You're going to have to worry about, all the wonderful things. Your eyesight getting worse, your hearing getting worse. The only thing they got right was the older you get, in my opinion, was the older you get, you are going to attend more funerals than you are birthdays. Okay, something to do with the people your age start peeling off. Okay, but we've got to start looking at the reality that we can make things better for ourselves. It's up to you. Now, absolutely, in the fields I've worked in, okay, in the metaphysical fields, in the actual physical fields, I can absolutely point you in the right direction. But, uh-oh. By the way, Dogface, that didn't work out quite the way you were intending. And again, as long as you're drinking and you're staying home, not trying to drive around. I mean, I still caution people where it comes to drinking. Everything in moderation. Okay. But we have to look at, you can sit there and fear what is coming. I was told, as you get older, things are going to start to break down. You run out of work and it's harder to get a job. It probably is harder to get a job. So I'm not looking for one. I'm just taking the one I've already got and building it. Okay. So I do have this little sheet here in case something comes up that I need to remember to go and deal with. And I'm watching for one person to show up in here. Yeah, that might be, I mean, that's a great idea, Paul. And maybe in the next day or two, I'll do the same idea. No, I'm not going to go to the library and get a book on drinks. I found when I was taking my bartending course, I had a lot of fun. Got really blitzed, but I had a lot of fun trying out the drinks I was working on. Yeah, unfortunately, it really does. Like LA is just saying, unfortunately, too many people think moderation means watch what you're drinking and counting glasses. And from my standpoint, I watch what I'm drinking only because of one little detail. I've got this problem. If I don't pay attention to my cup, I end up wearing the thing. And that just doesn't work for me. The funny part there, I heard it put actually on the movie The A-Team, Dogface, a variation on that. Face from the A-Team made a comment during the movie. He goes, "It's not what you know, it's how you know them." Okay. It also matters how well you get along with them. And this is why it is so important to treat everybody you meet with as much respect as you desire to be treated with. Okay. It's funny. I used to live next door to a grow op, and I treated the guy absolutely just like a normal person. Okay. The reality of it was, as a person went, he was fine. Yes, he was dealing in drugs, which I did not do at the time. Okay, I'd already quit drugs by the time I met him. But all of these people, whether they're politicians, teachers, doctors, drug pushers, it doesn't matter. They all have one thing in common. Every one of them is right here, right now. Every one of them has a desire to be recognized for being good at something. Okay. And the sad reality of it is, hey, Dogface, neither did I. Dogface is just going, I have to scan about 30 papers to my email. I didn't even know you could scan things to your email. Well, no fairness, Dogface, until you mentioned it here, I didn't know. Of course, in all fairness, I don't know a lot about technology. The reality is, I deal with technology as best I can. Nylock, glad you can make it. Thanks for joining us. I'm quite happy right now. Right now we have 9 people in the chat room. Okay, which is not the top of where we've accomplished, but it is where eventually we're going to go. Because the more people I can reach, and this is the whole purpose for doing the videos. Well, no, half the purpose for doing the videos, in all honesty. Well, that would explain that, Dogface. I've been fighting with him for 40 years and still can't deal with him properly. You know, the reality of it from my standpoint is simple. Okay. No matter how things go, if you treat each other better, okay, what you end up with is we will have a world where people are not quite so stressed out, quite so argumentative towards each other. You know, this is the thing that we have to make certain happens. Okay. We've got to get away from the idea that the world is going to, we have to fear the world in order to get it to go ahead, and somebody else is going to come down and straighten it out. Guess what? That task is being handed directly to you guys. Okay. And I don't just mean the people in the chat room. Okay. I mean the ones that are listening to this are getting it secondhand, where somebody that has listened to the video before. Okay. And how you doing, Terry? Glad you could make it. And Paul, I believe I missed you coming in. Happy holidays to you as well there, Terry. The reality of it is, when we treat each other better, stress levels will go down, energy levels will go up, and people will start to prosper. Now, I know there's some people out there that go, "Oh, we can't have everybody thinking like that, or the world is going to snowball." The reality is, war has never brought peace. Now, if you think about it, I remember the wars that happened after we came off Mount Sinai. I remember the wars of ancient Greece, the war, the wars when, during in all fairness, my own ancestry put us on the throne. We sat in the castle during the War of the Roses. Not our most auspicious time. And that's one of those little side projects I will eventually get to, which is going back into ancestry and looking at that side of it. But we have to realize that when we're looking at life, are you going to focus on the negative side, or are you going to focus on the positive side? Okay. Now, I'm not saying don't report the negative or don't talk about the negative. But how about if we find a slightly better balance? Okay. How about if we find a balance where if you're posting something, even if you're reposting, retweeting, whatever it is, okay, if you're posting something negative, at the very least, find something that's positive to repost as well, to keep a balance flowing. Because it is that balance between positive and negative that will make our world a more stable place. Okay. Ask yourself this: which one produces better results? Trying to do research, trying to build something positive, okay, while somebody's shooting at you, okay, or it's sad to say, Nylock, you're very right. Is it easier to concentrate when somebody's shooting at you, or when it's quiet? Now, I personally like to sit down when it's raining outside. If it's pouring rain outside, I'll open my windows, because of course my windows are far enough back that I don't have to worry about the rain coming through them. But I'll open the window up so I can hear the rainfall. And failing that, I'll go out and I'll sit in the front lobby and watch it. Okay. We have to look at the positive side of things. What makes your heart a little lighter? Okay. For me, it really is getting along with people, seeing people smiling. Okay. It's amazing to me. I watch people that watch the sports. They go to hockey games and what have you. And it just amazes me how tense they get. And I'm sitting there looking at it going, how do you call that enjoyable if you're actually screaming at the game? And I don't mean cheering. I mean screaming because you're upset. Okay. You just got to be careful there, dog face. The one issue there about making a good meal. Again, it comes back to that everything in moderation. If you eat too much, I don't know about you, but I don't feel great for a few hours. So I finally gave up on eating that much. The nice part about it, I just take a pause out to read the what's coming up through the chat room. But I really strongly encourage people to repost or to talk about the positive things. Okay, I was just talking to a friend of mine. I've actually mentioned her to you on a number of occasions. Okay, the MMA fighter, Sweet Maria. Okay, she's just moved on to pursue her dream a little further. So I'm hoping that we will maintain contact. Okay, Lord knows I wish her all the best with it. And same with any of you that have a project that you're in the middle of doing. Like I said, I've got a list of 12 things already listed that I'm setting out to accomplish before the end of 2023. Some of them are pretty ambitious, but every one of them is doable if you get organized. Okay. Now, like I said, we have to look at the positive side. Now, I looked at the issue. My job went out the window just like that. I got confirmation of it literally 20 minutes before I was supposed to be on shift, because I tend to log in 20 minutes early, or I tended to. Okay. Now, I can look at that and go, oh, my life is in a scramble now. I don't know what to do. Or I can look at it and go, okay, I no longer have a schedule that I have to attend to. Okay. I no longer am required to show up anywhere. I do have to pay attention to my finances and what I'm doing with them. And that I was already in the middle of turning around. Okay. But I could have looked at it like many of my coworkers did and went, oh, I have no idea how I'm going to survive. I've got to scramble and find something in the next month or two. And of course, a lot of them are my age. Now, I looked at it and went, well, let me think. Job's gone, income's gone, but in 5 months, I hit early retirement age. Now, before anybody jumps on that, so I work a little longer, I could manage to get a bit more money. But there's no guarantee I'm going to live a little longer. My brother at 64 got laid off. Okay. And he was 64. And I am absolutely certain, in my opinion, that's what ended up killing him. Was he had nowhere to go and no backup plan. Okay. Again, I could buy into the negative side. So can you. If we're at the end of 2022. Now look back over what happened in 2022 and ask yourself this. Okay. In 2022, is there anything that happened that you can actually make unhappen? That you can change it around, you can go back and stop the event from occurring? Or is it all stuff that, it's happened, some of it was good, some of it was bad, some of you had some horrendous outcomes. I know of a few people where they lost pretty much everything available. The funny thing there, and Dogface, is I never actually watched MMA at all. Okay, until I ended up running into Sweet Maria and getting to know her as a person. Yeah, that's just it. Carl, we all hit a point where we have to look at it and go, okay, sooner or later you're going to retire. Okay, sometimes people retire because they have to. Sometimes they retire because they've got the money to. And sometimes they retire just on a whim. And I'm debating whether that was my dad, because he retired 4 times before he finally died at 81. But we can look at the world and you can say, okay, what all is wrong with it? And I've talked about a fair chunk that is wrong with it. Okay, but one thing that I am looking at. What do we got? I'm just looking at what Paul's written here. I just retired and am now pursuing a range of things. Portfolio of work. I'm a consultant, lecturer, artist, writer, musician, and toy maker. Absolutely fantastic there, Paul. One of the biggest things I've heard people complain about, okay, and it's comical in a way, okay, but the biggest thing I've heard retirees complain about is, how did I ever get anything accomplished when I was working? Okay, LA's just saying she was forced into retirement due to illness 17 years ago. Right. And she goes, best years have been the last 17. And this is what I'm looking at. I'm going into retirement now going, okay, yes, I've got to watch finances, but I will be hanged if I'm going to sit here on my tail feathers and go, I'm just depressed. I'm no longer answering to somebody else. I no longer have to show up at work at a given time. I can do what I choose. And I am bound and determined I'm going to make that work for me. Carl's just saying, one of my sisters is turning 71 in January, and I think she's finally going to retire. From my standpoint, yes, I'm retiring from the workforce, but the reality is the odds of my ever sitting and doing nothing are slim to non-existent. Okay. I've got, with the Yldrbac Chronicles, I've got the 12 books, and that'll be 6 to 10 years getting them out. Okay. But as it turns, in addition to that, I have, I think, 20 other books I'm working on, that I'm currently working on, in addition to those. And I've just added, because as I tied The Birth of the Wolf, or tied the Return to Paradise off, I just added another 3 or 4 books without even thinking about it. Okay. So for me, I will be writing probably until I drop dead. Yeah, Dogface, here's an idea, and I've told this to other people. Okay, tonight, if you desire to find a direction to go with your life, now I can't tell you what direction you should go, but I can tell you how to figure it out. Take a sheet of paper, okay, and this works like an absolute charm. Take a sheet of paper and write the first 12 things down on it that you enjoy doing. Now, if you enjoy watching sports, okay, and that's one of the first things that you enjoy doing, okay, write it down. In my case, I enjoy my coffee, in case you couldn't tell. Whatever it is, write the first 12 things that come to your heart. Okay, those are the ones you enjoy. You start with that list. Then you shortlist it to the ones that help other people. And rest assured, your watching sports or your drinking coffee ain't going to help a lot of other people, other than making you potentially more tolerable to work with. Okay, that'll get you down to 6 or 7 right off the bat. JCL, glad you can make it. Okay, you get that, that'll get you down to 6 or 7. Then you go to those and ask yourself, which of those jobs of those interests can generate a high enough income for you to survive on. Now, if you enjoy giving massages, it's going to take you a lot bigger client base than if you enjoy selling houses. Okay, so you list it off, you'll be down to 2 or 3 items. In this fashion, you're choosing a career that, first of all, you enjoy doing. Net result, it won't feel much like work. And second of all, generates a high enough income to survive on. Okay. The and the real neat trick is pick a direction. And the easiest way in the world to look at it for me was to take a look at the situation I was in and go, okay, what am I not content with? Now this came really to the forefront when I stepped on the scale at 246 pounds. Now I'm only 5'8". Okay. And at 5'8", 246, I just looked at it and went, there is no way I'm hitting 250. Okay, it would take me a lot of work now to get back there, and I'm just not interested in putting the effort in. Hey, Dogface, I don't think anybody's mule will pay attention to them. Okay, I'm fortunate. I'm Torian. I've got a stubborn streak that was just built in nowhere. But when you pick a direction, if you take a look at what your world looks like, you go, I'm not content. Okay. For me, the weight came off because I hit a point and went, I'm not happy here. And I simply I did what the doctor said won't, and what the modern doctors have said won't work. Okay. I turned around and went, I'm going to cut back on what I'm eating, and I'm going to start exercising a little more, getting a little more mobile. Net result, I'm down 50 pounds. Now, the other day, about a month ago, I was carrying a staggering 25 pounds, a total of about 400 feet, twice. In that time, I was out of breath. I couldn't, I had no stamina left and I was sleeping for an hour. And I looked at it and went, I could complain about that problem, or I could go, I'm not content with it. I am going to build my strength up. Okay. Well, guess which one I chose? Okay, which is why one of my goals for this year is to, because right now I'm only working with a 5-pound curl. Yeah, I'm strong. You can tell. Okay. Not happy. So I will be focusing on that. But again, you can talk to people that can bring you down really fast. Like I know of one individual, every time he says something about a problem he's having, the person he talks to goes, oh yeah, that happened to me as well. Or they will talk in depressing terms about how they never accomplished anything. And you can surround yourself with people that are talking negative. You can scan the news lines. You can scan Facebook. Find all the depressing stuff you'd like and see how well that works for you. I can understand that. Yeah. Dogface is just going, I've been to a doctor twice and I've never been back. I was detained one of those times and one to make peace. Thank God we all mature and grow up. At 5 years old, I was diagnosed dead and they shipped me off to the morgue. I pretty much lost my trust in doctors, but growing up as an epileptic, as a severe epileptic, I would, I'd be walking along and a minimum of 3 times a day, I'd pull the dead fish routine. I'd be walking along and all of a sudden I'd hit the floor and wiggle around for a while. I do not like doctors for me personally, but I will tell you, if you don't know how to handle your own medical system, go and talk to a doctor as required. They've got more info than you do. Okay, but it still relies on you using your own brain. And I know for some people I've talked to, that's a challenge in and of itself. Okay, but when I talk about different healing techniques here, okay, I will tell you this is in tandem. This is in conjunction with so-called medical professionals. This is not a way to ignore them. Okay, the fact that I don't go does not mean it's necessarily the best move for you. Okay, it really boils down to take a look at what you've been through and ask yourself, Are you content with the way your life is? Do you have the talent or the technique to deal with it? Okay, this is why I tell people I'm mechanically inclined. Every time I'm inclined, I'll go to a mechanic. Yeah, in all fairness, when I was having blackouts or petit mal, I could tell it was coming. Okay, when I was having a grand mal, I'd just be sitting there and all of a sudden I'd hit the floor. I'd wake up afterwards absolutely exhausted. Okay. And mom and dad were, or whoever was around, had to deal with the in between. I wouldn't even know how long I was gone out. Okay, I still can't track how time passes. But I did find a cure for epilepsy that I absolutely tell you is the worst possible solution. Do not do this one. Okay. At somewhere between 8 and 9, I had a fatal seizure. And yes, I did say fatal, as in the doctors literally had to restart my heart. That was the 4th time before I was 10 years old that my heart stopped and had to be clinically restarted. Okay. Since then, I still can't track time, but since then, I haven't had a seizure. Well, I don't know about all good. I mean, I'm still temperamental. I've still got the political, the politically correctness of an agitated Wolverine. Okay, that funny little thing that most people have in their head that says, "Oh, I shouldn't say that." Yeah, mine got a little waylaid, so it goes, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that." But the reality of it is, the one thing I can guarantee is, number one, I'm not about to lie to people to make them feel better. And number two, I don't make decisions for people, ever. I'll tell you, this is what is required. It's absolutely imperative. Okay. If you can take a look in the mirror and whatever you're planning on doing, okay, and again, this boils down to the positive side of it. Whatever you're planning on doing, whatever endeavor you're looking at getting into, if you can look in the mirror and say, "Hey, I did that," or you can stand up and tell the general population, if it were required, "Hey, I stood up, I went and did this. I chose to." Okay. If you can tell that to anybody you choose, then go ahead and do it. Okay. If you have to worry, if I stand up and say this, am I going to get arrested? Am I going to end up in trouble with somebody if I do this? That right there is your indicator. If you will not be able to stand up and say, "Hey, I did this," okay, don't do it in the first place. Okay. And for those of you that, have this brilliant idea that thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it, something you might want to consider. Just a thought. In this particular story, now this is imagination, okay, as in science fiction, science fantasy. But if thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it, then taking a look at a book like this means whoever wrote it, in this case I did, okay, and there's some pretty violent stuff that goes on in this. Bear in mind, I'm a pacifist. Okay. But you have to take a look at it and go, thinking about it is not as bad as doing it. Acting upon and thinking about it may be an indication that you want to look into why you're thinking about it. Okay. Lord knows, growing up, because I was bullied so badly, okay, Lord knows that I have some pretty dark thoughts. Okay. Yep. There are the reality is there are always people out there that are worse. There are always people out there that are better. Okay. The question you have to ask yourself, or that I find would be wise to ask yourself, Okay. This particular book there, where are we here? Dogface. Okay. Or is that just not showing up? Where did I just see that? I'm just looking at the where are we here? Oh, there we are. Dogface. Then this is technically, well, never mind. Technically, Birth of the Wolf Pack. I wrote the storyline originally, and the storyline itself. Okay, and I think that's probably the next one I'm going to do. But the storyline itself, I actually wrote in the back of the book. Okay. It starts off, this entire saga is actually 12 pages long, or 12 pages, 12 volumes long, about 4,800 pages, give or take. Okay, probably a little shy of that. But the story itself, I wrote in grade 10. I wrote the storyline in grade 10. And I was told then by my teacher, and I actually tracked her down, and her name is listed in there as a credit. Okay, but it takes life from creation all the way through several ages until the fall of man. Okay, that's where the original storyline ended. Okay, it takes creationism, evolution, ancient races, as in your elves and your dwarves. Okay, minotaurs, this sort of thing. The offworlders, as in you have your Moldocs, you've got the Nordics, you've got various different races that show up. Okay, takes them, puts them all into one package. Okay, mixes magic with technology, mixes ancient civilizations with modern civilizations. Okay, and takes the whole thing and wraps it up neatly under one package. Okay, the whole thing is built as 4 trilogies set back to back. Now, when you look at them, okay, if we take a look at them, Birth of the Wolf Pack was actually after the end of the Great War, okay, of the Great Collapse. But when you have them, and I can only guarantee this from the ones that are ordered directly through me, when you line up the backs of them, they make a complete picture. Now, I'm never going to be able to hold up all 12 pictures at the same time for obvious reasons. Okay. But they also, on the side, produce a picture that will span the entire 12 books. Now, what I've done is taken this whole story, every character, almost every character in here, okay, was built by somebody else. Okay, the game, they were either based on gaming characters that other people built and that I had the fun of playing with, or they were built on gaming characters or characters that I'd run in the worlds of D&D, Aftermath, Star Frontiers, and some of you guys recognize these, some of you don't. Okay, but virtually every character comes from somewhere. Either I knew somebody that fit the bill, okay, so I based the character on that person, or an event that I personally went through. Okay. So is it science fiction, science fantasy? Absolutely. But there's one also still underlying message. And that is because Birth of the Wolf Pack is where a group of misfits from various walks of life get together and start working to try and bring civilization back on track. Okay, now the problem with this is it is a violent post-apocalyptic world at this point. Okay. See, and this is, I'm just looking at a conversation between LA and Dogface. And something I should point out, William Shakespeare said it best. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Okay. That's just the reality of it. The fact of the matter is, what we want to call it, whether you want to call it, karma, whether you want to call it doing what's right, whether you want to call it the golden rule, it doesn't matter. Okay. The key here is that we get on the same page and start treating people the way that we desire to be treated ourselves. Myself, I prefer to be treated decently. So I do my best to treat people decently. Unfortunately, my mouth gets in my way on occasion. So can I be a little too blunt for my own good? The answer is yes. JCL, that is terrible news in one sense. But thank you so much for joining us. JCL is just having troubles with the connection. Problem with modern tech. The one thing I found is when you write stuff on a computer and you go to email it to somebody, there is a problem with, and there can be a problem with tech, or if you're trying to talk. These funny things here, paper and ink. Once you get it written, you don't run into technological problems. They don't just naturally, automatically fail. Okay. Now, I do understand that modern tech is a necessity. It's not going anywhere. However, I am still a firm believer, and this is what I'm focusing on for next year. I'm still, for next year, I've got a list of people that I'm working on for Christmas. And yes, I realize we're Christmas right now. But from my standpoint, okay, I turn around and go, okay, I am going to make most of my gifts. Now, I am not an artiste. Okay, so I'm going to make most of my gifts, as much as possible with my own hand. I did with one is I know somebody who is very, from their personal life, they've got a girlfriend, or more to the point, they're looking for a girlfriend. Okay. Now, for that reason, I am not a woodworker. So all I did was I bought a wood sign that was unfinished, unpainted. I took the time with my own hand to paint it. Okay. Now, granted, I did not cut the sign, but from my way of thinking, the reality of it is the effort that you put into a gift, not necessarily what they want. Okay. People want everything, but take a look at what you feel like giving them. And this is what I'm doing. One of the best gifts I ever received came from my eldest brother. I was having trouble with finances at the time, which was normal for me, and quite frankly still is. But he went grocery shopping. He bought a bunch of cans and bought a bunch of boxes of food, wrapped each one individually, stuffed them inside a bigger box, and then wrapped the whole box up. The best gift I could have gotten, that I could have received. Okay. It didn't change my life, but I'll tell you, it came at the perfect time. And this is one of those things about, look at what's going on. If you're low on money, okay, because money is a pain in the neck. Okay. But you have somebody you really desire to give a gift to. Go to the grocery store, wrap it up and send it to them and give it to them. Okay. It's one of those things that, yes, it's perishable. So is everything else. It just takes longer for everything else to perish. Okay. This is one of those things. And if we take a look at it and go, okay, I'm really limited in my finances. I've got a couple of gifts that I've got to get dealt with because I didn't have the money to do what I chose. Of course, with this hiccup that I ran into, it's not going to happen. But why do I encourage people to give gifts? It's actually quite simple. It makes people feel better. Ask yourself this. If you were walking down the mall, okay, you're walking through the mall, and a total stranger walked up to you and handed you a Christmas card and said, "Merry Christmas." Would that upset you? I know it upsets some people. Matter of fact, I know one that was absolutely bizarre. But would that upset you, or would that make you feel a little better? Okay. Now, I did this. The last time I did it, I actually had the money to do it. And all I did was I took 5 cards, put in the card a $20 cash bill. That was it. Okay, I had the money I could do it with. Closed the card up. All I did was send it, said Merry Christmas from Inner Voice Enterprises, put $20 cash in it, and went, there you go. Okay. And, the response that I got from people, sometimes it was just confusion. Sometimes they were absolutely tickled pink. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting that people that have a lot of money give it all away to people. Okay. I'm just saying, if you're trying to make somebody feel better, if you don't have money, here's an idea. Take a piece of cardstock. Okay. And I mean something just like this. Okay. I can get away with this because I'm not actually tied down. There we are. You want to make a lot of people happy all at the same time. And again, this is just an issue of positive energy. Okay. It doesn't take a lot. Here we have a standard file card. Okay. Now you can pick a pack of these up for $2 or $3 in the store. There's 100 here. Now, if all you did, was take that and on it write something as simple as hope you have a wonderful day, or you look nice today, and just hand it to people as you're walking by. You're looking at $3 to buy 100-ish. Okay, 3 pennies, 3 cents to a gift. But the impact it can have on somebody's day is absolutely phenomenal. Okay. The reality of it is these are just simple tools that we can use, simple ideas to make people feel better. Now, I'm talking about it at Christmas, but here's the thing. This applies all year long. You think about it. If you can go into a church or into a temple or into a coven and listen to somebody on a weekly basis say, you must behave or you will be punished. Okay, if you can do that to yourself every week, what is the harm in spending 3 cents to a person and handing them a sheet of paper that says, here's a compliment, you look nice, or what a wonderful smile, and just walk off. You just hand it to them and carry on. That energy will replicate itself. Okay, and the neat part about this is it's not plasticized. It's simple paper. Okay, which means, let's say the person, throws it in the garbage, or worse, just drops it on the ground. It's standard paper. It will dissolve in a whole new it'll dissolve really fast. Okay. Well, thank you very much there, Paul. These are just ways that you can enhance things with the plants in your own home. Okay. Walk by them, and when you're walking by them, say good morning to them. I know it sounds weird. I also know that it will help them grow more effectively. And that one I don't expect you to take my word for. Okay. I would suggest that you give it a shot and see what happens. Lord knows I had one plant. I was talking about this the other day. I had one plant called a croton that was a coffee addict. Well, and that's a funny thing. I like the way you put that, Nathan. Mostly harmless is the best descriptor. And, mostly it is. Because I will tell you that anything can be turned into a negative. but then anything can be turned into a positive. I could take a look at the fact that my job just got transferred and just got canceled. And I could look at that and say, oh, my world's a wreck. Or I can do what I did and go the same thing that, who was it? It was a great movie. Starred Mel Gibson. I'm trying to remember what the heck it was. But he ended up at the end of the show crying freedom. And I forget, I'm drawing a blank on what the name of the movie was. The important factor was, from my standpoint, I looked at it and went, okay, I no longer have a definite job. But, thank you so much there, Nathan. Nathan's just reminding me here, that was Braveheart. So I could look at the fact that I end up with no job going, oh, I'm now going to, I'm going to lose everything. Or I could look at it and go, freedom. I can do whatever I please within the confines of the law. And I cannot stress enough, the primary reason I follow the law is, in all fairness, I don't like vertical bar time. I don't think it would do me any good at all. Okay. And I just can't be bothered with the headaches. So, find ways to make people smile. Okay. Where it comes to your kids, the whole trick is this. Sometimes the best gift is the one they didn't know they wanted, that they required. Okay. I know one of the best gifts I ever gave my eldest brother, right? It just blew him away. The one gift I gave to one brother was a handmade quilt. Okay, and he looked at me and he goes, "What's this?" So I opened it up, gave it to him. He unwraps it and he goes, "Well, thank you very much." He says, "I don't know what to say." Right. And he said, "Where did you get it?" I said, "I made it." He says, "Now I have absolutely no idea what to say." And he almost burst into tears. My comment to him was, well, I think you just said more than you have in a decade. But my eldest brother, he was a pack rat and had just about everything available. He was also a massive Doctor Who fan. So for the guy that had all kinds of computerized things and every book you could think of, including some you probably hadn't heard of, I bought him a little Dalek. Okay, I created one of these robots out of Doctor Who. Now, I don't personally follow Doctor Who, but he was sure happy about it. That's the reality behind it. I'm taking a look at this. I still watch the chat room. And, the reality of it is you have a choice. Whenever you go to say something to anybody, okay, ask yourself, first and foremost, is it something that they really require to know? And secondly, is it going to help them or anybody else? If what you're planning on saying is not something that's going to benefit them in any way, why bother passing it on? In most cases. Now, yes, there are times when you will have to talk to somebody. You need somebody that you can bounce an idea off of. Okay, and Lord knows I've done that before. Okay, and we'll probably still continue doing it. But you have to look in the mirror, and I keep saying you have to, and that is wrong. Okay, you don't actually have to. That's your choice. But what I found was by looking in the mirror and going, am I content with this? When I looked at it and went, no, I'm not. Then I turned around and said, okay, enough. I've got to change these things. Because when you eliminate everything in your life that you're not content with, okay, that is when you can turn around and finally move forward. You can put your negative past, your negative experiences to rest. One of the things that I will be doing here, okay, on this phone before the end of this year, I'm going to go through it and I'm going to delete the contacts that I either never hear from or had a falling out with, because I don't require them anymore. And I'm not taking it into the new year. Okay. It's much like a lot of the files that I've got. I'm letting go of the ones I have no more use for. Okay. But we have to find ways to alter things. Now, here's the thing, okay? And do understand, sometimes something costs too much to get done. Like, for instance, let's say you've got a friend, that has really wanted a makeover, has really wanted to get their hair done, but just didn't have the money. Now, maybe it's too much money for you, but have you considered talking to other mutual friends and going, hey, can we each put $10 together and buy this person a trip to the salon? Okay, yes, it may not seem like much to you, but for them, it could mean the difference between a whatever. I went through the day again. I made it. And gee, I feel so much better. Okay. And this is these are just some of the ideas for taking a look at the world that you're looking at and go, how can I take the negative energy that I'm feeling around me and make it work better? So from my end, it's real simple. Okay. I'm looking at different ways that I can take what little I've got to work with and strive to lead by example. Okay. Because the reality is, talking about doing something doesn't work all that well, which is why I'm talking about this side of it. Because part of it is I get these ideas and I go, okay, this could work. And then when I turn around and do, sadly there, Joe, I really don't. I may have heard his name before, but I honestly don't think I know him at all. But then, in all fairness, I don't go on the internet looking for people. This is one of the drawbacks of being very reclusive. Okay. But I am thinking, what I'm looking at here, and again, I'm right smack in the middle of Christmas, just like you guys are. And this is something that should happen, every day. It really should happen daily. I don't mean the gift thing. But we've got to start as a society looking at the positive side of things. Okay, this is not a question of one group of people being worse than another. Everybody has their dark side. Everybody has a negative aspect to them. Okay. And the trick is not, people say embrace your dark side. No, don't. Honestly, acknowledge it, but contain it. Find a balance between the dark thoughts and the positive thoughts. Okay, that's the key to moving forward. Okay, if you've got more of the positive things you're thinking of, then frankly, your days will get better. This is just a simple mathematical reality. It's a question of balance. LA, thank you so much for joining us. And happy holiday. Yeah, I like that. Okay, that works. Have an absolutely wonderful time, and we will catch up with you in the near future. All the best to you and yours. The nice part about the world is this. From your standpoint, we have a world that is tossed in chaos right now, but the chaos being propagated and amplified by individuals choosing to post all the negative things going on. Okay, choosing to look at the things that are going sour and going, I'm going to focus on those. The reality of it from your standpoint, and this is what I'm asking your assistance with. I came back to pass on this message. I've been here before. Okay. I've had lifetimes where I was a whole lot less than amicable. Okay. I remember one lifetime I was running a dragon ship, a pirate ship. And while I'm on the ship, one of my people, hi voice, how you doing? Some of them do. When you take a look at when they're on the planet here, most of them celebrate to one degree or another. iVoice was just asking which aliens celebrate Christmas. Now, there is no question that many of the ancient races, as in the Elfid, the Elfid and the Dwarvish races, and the Perake, okay, all celebrated to one degree or another. When you get into the Satyrs and the Minotaurs, if they're actually having a good year, they celebrate as well. Nords have a tendency of doing so. Okay, many of the, and there are others, like if we take a look at the Galactic Consortium, they don't technically celebrate Christmas, but if they're on the planet, they absolutely participate in it. Because what we discovered when I was talking to many of these races, many of them have similar celebrations that literally apply. But let me explain. Okay, when we take a look at, when we take a look at the whole reality behind it, okay, Christians, and that's where everybody looks at Christmas and goes, that's where it's all focused. But no, it is not. They're just the most readily recognizable. Okay, but ultimately, what happens is at Christmas time, regardless of the walk of life, regardless of the religious belief, okay, on the whole, people seem to, number one, pick a generalized meal. Okay, for Christians, more often than not, it's turkey and or ham. Okay, but get this. People pick a generalized meal and they put all of this stuff aside. They sit down, they have an theoretically enjoyable family meal together. Okay, they celebrate the passing of the year, they celebrate the things they had, talk about the things they'd like to do, and more often than not, there's an exchange of gifts. Okay, now, there are some races or some nationalities, or call it what you will, that have a different meal than turkey, but they all have the same basic meal. They all gather under the same circumstances, and they do the same thing. They have this close-knit family interaction. That is celebrating, in my opinion, that is celebrating the Christmas spirit. Cliff, how you doing? Glad you could join us. There are some races that absolutely, they don't necessarily call it by the same name. Okay, but you gotta remember, on a starship, the months don't go by the same way. Okay, and that's why I said when you're dealing with the ones on Earth, okay, it's a wonderful thing in some ways, because many of the Fae children, okay, of the woodland entities that you know of as mythological, many of them have of course, for the pagans that are in the room, many of the Christmas celebrations are drawn from pagan religion. Okay, as far as I understand it, but they use it as an issue of, hey, it's a great time to get together and celebrate life. That is what the Christmas spirit is all about. It's about the celebration of life, the celebration of sharing. Okay, and this is what we have to look at. So, of course, I'm looking at this, and again, I'm looking at, I've got a couple of things here that I am dealing with. But for Christmas of next year, okay, I've got a list of names around here. There it is. I've already made a list of specific names that I'm going to be dealing with Christmas for. And it's that long. Okay. And the reason you do that is, again, to get organized. Well, the tallest would have to be, well, I don't know if I want to call it the tallest, but probably would be the Archons. They are both and in a lot of ways, they are also the creepiest. An Archon is bigger than a planet. Okay, Caborans are literally planets, but an archon is actually bigger than a planet. Okay, but when they're in their microscopic form, they look really oddly like and this is one of those pictures that will be in Races of the Worlds. Okay, when I put out the second printing with the pictures. Basically, they've got an elongated body, but we are talking something microscopic, okay? They've got an elongated body with, with 4 what you might call legs, used for swimming to start and then for walking. Okay. And of course, then we've got the cetopods, which are your Udina. Okay, if you watch the movie Arrival, okay, absolutely perfect rendition of an Udina. And definitely a little on the creepy side when you're looking at them. Now, of course, we can go into the daemons, which have a whole different appearance. Okay. And if you want something that just throws you for a loop, you take a look at the Korlok. Korloks are complete metamorphs. Okay, they have no stable form. Yeah, Dogface, thank you so much for putting it off. Merry Christmas to you, and we will absolutely connect again. But have a safe trip while you're getting out there. The reality of life is this. It is what we make it. Okay. Now, there are some races. I mean, you talk to the off-worlders, and many of them find humans absolutely creepy as all get out. Korloks look at humans and go, but how do you function with a solid form, with a stable form? When we take a look at the Uka, it's like you've only got a 60-degree turn on your neck. How do you possibly keep an eye on what's behind you? Now, understand, the Uka, which is basically an owl, similar to an owl in appearance, has a 270-degree joint rotation in their neck. They can literally look almost directly behind them. Okay. And I think it's a xenon. I'm just going to double check that on principle. But I'm pretty certain it's a xenon. Yep. The xenon are a fascinating race. They are absolutely robotic appearing in nature. And because of that, they are built in such a way that their joints have a 360 repetitive turn. Okay. They can sit there and look at you and spin their head around in circles at the same time as they put their arms out and they roll them over and over. Okay. They just have a complete 360 socket rotation. And they look at it going, but how do you function without it? And yet we humans are, quite frankly, amongst many of the races, many of them actually fear what humans are capable of. Especially considering that humans are not a very cooperative race, politely put. It's not a question of them being a dangerous race per se, except in their ignorance. But I do strongly encourage you to really find new and exciting ways, well, not necessarily exciting, but new ways to make the people in your area a little happier. Okay. Just simply saying good morning when you see somebody. And this is something I should point out because I deal with so many relationships over the years. Okay. I've dealt with so many relationships over the years that I have to look at it and go, okay, if you take a look at that, most of the time, the biggest problem that people in a relationship have, they work like an absolute monkey to try to get the person's attention and get together, and get a relationship up and running. and then they totally neglect the person. Something that will help immensely in bringing your relationship back on track is, especially if you don't get to spend as much time together as you'd like maybe you're somebody that travels. Okay, stewardesses are a prime example. Okay, simply grabbing your cell phone and texting first thing in the morning, good morning, and if you've got a term of endearment you use, absolutely use it. And good night. If that's all you can manage, it will help immensely. Okay, these are just some of those things that we can do, but it's up to the individual to do it. I can tell you it's necessary. I can tell you if we don't do it, we're going to run into a massive problem. Okay, society is going to run into a massive problem. And that problem is fast approaching the way people are handling things. It is time to turn this around now. Now, let me just take a look at something while I'm talking to you here. I should do that, but we are going into 2023, so we take 1728 off of it. That makes 5. Becomes 11 minus 2 is 95. That should be right. 13, 8, 11, 9. 9 minus 8 is 2. Yep. Okay. So then we go 288. 15 is 7. And that becomes 7, 9. Okay. Now this gets modified. Now understand I work with universal numerology, which is base 12. Okay. Most people work with Pythagorean numerology, which is base 9. Okay. And the reality behind it is I find it has limits. So I looked around and went, okay, where is the real key point? So what we're looking at here is we're going into a 10-year, a year of acceptance. The real key to making things work a lot more effectively at this point is for you to look in the mirror and go, okay, where am I standing? And simply accept the fact that's where you are. Do not put a whole lot of thought into it if you can avoid it. How did I get here? You can beat yourself black and blue for all of eternity. I could be sitting here going, how could I have been so stupid? Well, because I'm a professional procrastinator and just didn't actually pay attention. Do not focus on how you got to where you are, because you can't do anything about how you got there. Okay, take a look at where you're standing and talk to anybody you can for support to get the encouragement that you require. Okay, now I find if you get encouragement from people, no matter who they are, okay, and it helps bolster your spirit, you're going to have a better day. Okay, but remember, you cannot decide what is going to make somebody else absolutely pull their head up, pick their head up and go, okay, I can move forward. The only thing I can really strongly suggest is that when you're dealing with people, regardless of which people you're talking to, be honest with them. Okay, I absolutely encourage you to be polite. Okay, that is absolutely necessary. But above all, be honest. Treat people the way you desire to be treated. This is an absolutely critical factor. And the more as a society that we do this, the better off we're going to be. Okay, ask yourself this. If you happen to be one of these people that either owns a company or manages one, which gets you better results? Telling somebody how much they're doing wrong, or pointing out what they're doing wrong and emphasizing what they're doing that's working well? Okay, which one works better for you? This is the critical thing you have to look at. Do you feel better being talked to in a decent fashion, or would you rather be screamed at, or worse, hit? Now, I know there are people that have a temper problem. I'm fortunate. I've got a temper problem when it comes to dealing with stupid people, with what I consider stupid people. Okay, but it is a verbal thing. Okay, this does not make it right. It just means I don't have to worry about getting into any sort of serious trouble by hitting somebody. Now, I heard of an absolute appalling state where somebody walking down the street, a very well-known celebrity, and I forget his name, I do remember it was a male, turned around and wished a passerby Merry Christmas. Now, I don't see a problem with this. Okay, but the person brought him up on charges of racism because he was neglecting other people. Now, let's start with the obvious issue. Okay, he was saying Merry Christmas to one person. That's it. Okay, and he ended up in court because he was being charged with racism. Now, can anybody out there actually explain how that is even possible to consider? Okay, I know it's possible, and I've got my own reasons for believing that. But we have to look at it and go, if you're going to smile at somebody, I told somebody one day, I was walking by them, and I told them point blank, I was going by, I says, have a nice day. And I kid you not, this guy spun on me and he goes, don't tell me what kind of day to have. And I'm like, how do you misconstrue that as something negative? But people do that all the time. And by the way, it's not just humans. Okay. Virtually every race I've ever run into has that same problem. And yes, while I'm talking every race, I'm even talking about tree to tree. Okay. Trees, by the way, are not quite as amicable as you might think in some cases. But the reality of it is that I did a post this morning. I read a couple of excerpts out of the Birth of the Wolfpack. Okay. And I wasn't certain how well it was going to run. But on the plus side, I posted it and did get a couple of remarks on it, which means I can continue. I've got my camera back up where I can actually record and put it out. Okay. But we have to start as a society reaching out to each other, building communication lines, re-establishing a verbal communication network. The computer is a great tool, but it is not the be-all and end-all. Okay, and it is not the cure for everything. It will cause its own problems if you let it. The more, frankly, in my opinion, the more you rely on technology, the less you can rely on yourself. Prime example, think back when you were younger, and it really applies more to people my age, or maybe a decade younger. When we were growing up, you had to remember phone numbers in your head, or you had to write them down on cardstock. Now, we got these. Problem with these, you have a power outage, and you lose everything. Same thing applies to the way that this world is working. If we have an EMP pulse, most of the information from the last 70 years is on computer. Okay, most of the formulae are on computer. If we have an EMP pulse, all of the advances over the last 17 years go the way of the dodo bird. Okay, because we won't have the knowledge to make plastic, to make electronic parts, to put computers together. I mean, heck, in a lot of cases, you don't even have the material and the information anymore on how to make basic clothing. This is the thing that we have let go by the wayside. And this is the sort of thing that we really have to take a look at and go, okay, I'm not suggesting we go back to the Dark Ages, but I am suggesting and encouraging that we start working with each other, start rebuilding communication lines, and remembering how to do things the old-fashioned ways. Okay, much of this information is lost. Now, I'm lucky. I ended up with a friend that actually knows how to make alcohol. Okay, from fruit. Now, this is I don't drink a lot, but it is nice having the information. Okay, and this is why I'm looking at getting the information on paper. Okay, this funny little tool here. I keep forgetting which one's which. This funny little tool here. Okay, that is the backbone to how I turned my life around. Right there. Okay. This one is the backbone to how I laid out my business. And quite frankly, I haven't done a lot of the information. I haven't put it to use very much. But this is one of my commitments for next year, is to make absolutely certain that I land on my feet, and that in doing so, I pass on this information to those people I'm in contact with. Okay. One of the things I find with this whole video thing is it enables me to reach more people. And while I'm thinking about it, if you haven't done so already, right in the bottom right-hand corner of the video, you'll find a little button, okay, that is for direct subscription. Absolutely, if you like the videos, absolutely hit that button. Okay. Now, I am going to continue these for as long, for the foreseeable future anyway. Now, if I end up dropping dead, sorry, probably going to have to visit individually. But the reality of it is that when you look at the world the way it is, okay, you've got a choice to make. Are you going to continue letting your life go the way it has been going? Or are you going to change the things you're not content with anymore? Okay, that's the question you have to ask yourself. Okay, because if you don't start asking yourself that and start acting upon it, your life will not change. No effort, no change. It's just that simple. The fact is, we're taught that change is scary, difficult, painful, frightening. Okay, it can be all of those. Okay, one of the obvious examples, you're traveling along in a plane and the plane loses an engine. All of a sudden, you're heading for the ground. And I'll tell you, that will be scary. And if you land, it's going to be painful. But there was a report of somebody who that happened to way up at 30,000 feet, 6 miles in the air. Okay. They got hit with lightning. The plane got hit with lightning bolt. And this is decades back. Okay, before they had all the extra precautions. The plane got hit with lightning bolt and turned around and it blew apart, tore the tail feathers off. And what ended up happening with that person is they rolled the back end of the plane all the way to the ground. Okay, 6 miles. Now, I don't know what they landed in, I'm presuming it had to be a swamp. Okay, because the reality of it is they survived the impact. Okay, a 6-mile free fall. They lived through it. Is it possible? Yes. But on the flip side of that, we have an extra problem. Okay, it doesn't always work that way. So what we have to take a look at is you have to use, it is absolutely imperative that you absolutely follow your heart, but use your head to get there. I asked one of my mentors years ago. I was running through some emotional complications. And I asked him, I says, what do you do when your heart and your head are in conflict? Well, the man bust out laughing at me. And, bear in mind, he was about 20 years older than I am. He would still be, except he passed away. He laughed at me and he goes, when your heart and your head are in conflict, follow your heart, but use your head to get there. Okay, this is what I am suggesting. Absolutely. If you're one of these people that's going to church, that's going to a temple, that's going to a coven, Absolutely go. Follow the guidelines they've got. But when you come out, realize and take to heart one thing. Every single individual on this planet is of equal spiritual value. And when I talk about people, I mean plants, animals, people, other races. Doesn't matter. They are all of equal spiritual value. Okay. And I strongly encourage you to treat all of them with the respect and with the care that you personally desire to be treated yourself. This is the key to actually landing on our feet. We are not talking about somebody else coming down and fixing this. You do have free will. You do have free choice. What you don't have is freedom of consequence. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're doing, you have to deal with the consequences of your actions. Hence why karmic law is simple. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. The way that you treat people is the way you're stacking the deck in favor of treating yourself. And it's by looking at the negative things and finding a positive outcome. Okay, sometimes this is extremely difficult. I mean, realistically, if you've lost a loved one, and, in all fairness, I lost one this year. Technically, I didn't lose him. I know where he is. It is kind of ironic that I phoned him. Not ironic. It is kind of fascinating that I phoned him to ask where he was on the day he died. Because I phoned and said, we haven't heard from you. What's going on? Right. And, it is kind of fascinating from that standpoint. But it is time we start looking at people, at each other, whether they are strangers, friends, family, coworkers, it doesn't matter. Look at them as equals. They are just as important as you. They bring different skills to the table, but it's that combination of skills, that combination of talents that is going to help make this world a much better place for most people. And I will tell you, for those of you that are materialistically inclined, okay, something to keep in mind. If your staff is happy, they will work more efficiently. If your staff is happy, customers will come into the store more readily. When I was working for Dairy Queen, we actually had customers coming in to watch me and one other cook. Not because we were phenomenal cooks, but if you ever watched the show Cocktail, I think it was back in the 80s. Okay. If you ever watched that show, that's what we were doing in the kitchen with the condiments. Okay. And we had people coming literally that would come in on their lunch break to sit and have coffee and just watch us cook. Because we have 3 sets of condiments in the air, on the go. One would be in my hand, one would be in my buddy's hand, and the other one would be airborne. Because we'd be working along and he'd go, he'd call out, for instance, I need ketchup. And I'd grab the ketchup and throw it up in the air and walk away. He'd come back, and I'm talking a squeeze bottle. The chap I was working with would come along underneath me, catch the bottle, and carry on with the cooking. Right. But frankly, it's a question of enjoying what you're doing. Now, to be honest with you, these videos I'm enjoying more and more, but that is directly because of the fact that I actually have people to deal with. In other words, people, that'll be you guys. Now, with that in mind, I'm hitting the 2-hour mark here. So I'm going to bring this to a close. I'm going to say thank you once again so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I absolutely love the encouragement that I get from you guys and the support. And, remember, since you're still in the chat room, if you haven't looked yet, scan back to the top of the chat list. There is a list of 4 other YouTube channels that I strongly encourage you to go and take a look at. Okay, they've got different stuff than I've got, and therefore they help complete the package. But this is a time for us to start working together. Okay, with that in mind, I'm going to pull the plug here. I'm going to bid you all a good night and say thank you once again, and we will meet again. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.